Okay, welcome back. Before we get started, I want to show you this hack that is totally relevant to what I'm going to be like making a video on today. So, working in the hospital, like you literally need caffeine to function. Okay, that's like a stretch, but I like to have coffee before I go in. So, I also need protein because I work out. And look at this hack I found, guys. Look. So what you do is you just brew yourself your coffee and then you get a protein shake, and then you just use like the sweetness from the protein shake in the coffee, no sugar or milk added, and then you got yourself like a latte, but it's like protein latte with caffeine. So I'm gonna do like a little magic transition where like this is gonna be like done, and yeah, watch as I snap away and make my coffee. Protein latte. I know it kind of looks like milk from here, but like you have to understand that it's like some weird thing with the protein shake and the coffee, but I swear it tastes like a latte. So anyway, besides the point, let's get started. So yeah, as the title of the video hints, today I'm gonna be like mainly talking about what it's like to volunteer at a hospital. I know that a lot of people see that as something that they need to do to, you know, continue on that career as a pre-med student and ultimately getting onto med school. And while it is something that's important to see on your resume, it's also something that is good because it exposes you to the day-to-day of someone who works in a hospital, whether it be the maintenance staff, nurses, med techs, doctors, surgeons, everything. You get a taste of what it's like to be in the shoes of a healthcare worker. So for me, I volunteered at a hospital in Arizona. I think you can expect fairly similar procedures at any hospital. It's gonna typically range from volunteering in certain departments where your duties could consist of like just assisting patients with non-medical needs, obviously, whether it be getting them blankets, food, water, things like that, helping nurses, delivering medication. That's kind of what it was for me. But let me backtrack to what you can probably expect just going into it. From the beginning, I did this through a program, so there was an orientation process where I met the volunteer coordinator at the hospital. They talked to me about what I could expect with this program and the things you get to see as a volunteer. So that lasted for a couple of hours, and this orientation could be with groups of students or it could be alone. Mine just happened to be alone because I arrived at a particularly advantageous time to where I got like a lot of one-on-one time with the coordinator, and I found that was very helpful because having a good relationship with your coordinator is important because they're the ones who determine where you're going to be working, and they can help you shadow and move to certain departments because they're able to communicate with all the administrative people in the hospital. So make sure you're nice to your coordinators. Post orientation, I don't know how it works at like other hospitals, but what I got to do was pretty cool. I got to do a scavenger hunt. So it's pretty much a map of the hospital with like a huge list of things, and I got to pretty much roam the hospital for an entire day and find everything, familiarize myself with things. And again, this is important because you're going to be interacting with patients, families of the patients, and guiding them around the hospital, wheeling people to certain rooms. I actually had this case where I was kind of unsure of where a certain location was. I was wheeling this mother to go see her daughter before she went under for an operation, and it was pretty crazy because I was like rushing with her throughout the hospital, pushing her on this wheelchair because I wanted her to see her daughter before she went under for surgery. And like having that knowledge was very important because it helped me get her there before she went under. So just recognizing that you're gonna be kind of expected to know some place very well or know the entire hospital very well. Of course, this depends on what it is you're going to be assigned to in terms of department, or if you're gonna do what I did for a couple of shifts, which was float. That's what allowed me to kind of be able to like walk around with people, take people places. So after that is when like the regular shift started. For me, I was working on recovery. I was working on a recovery floor. I was working on a floor that specialized with liver and kidney issues. And then there was a, I think the other floor was a recovery floor too. and then I worked in the emergency room. Something I will say about like the recovery floors and just working on, well, I guess I can just say this for recovery floors. The recovery floors I worked on were very, what you would characterize as slow. And I say slow because typically these are situations where they're smaller settings and you have a group of nurses that are assigned to several patients, and it's, I don't know, from what I've seen, it could be one nurse to two patients, or when it's not busy, it's one nurse to one patient, which makes it a little more personable. There are some pros and cons to it. I would say that I got to interact with people on a bit more deeper level again, since I was not there like every single day. Like it wasn't like a personal connection, but you can expect to interact with someone who has been staying in the hospital for a long time, and you have the ability to have a really positive impact on them. So that's something you can expect as a pro for surgery floors, and that's something I really enjoyed. Something that I would say that could be a little bit unexciting is that because there is not very many things to do on the medical or on the recovery floors, you may find yourself like sitting a lot or just sitting at a desk. For me, I was kind of lucky because it didn't happen too much where I was doing nothing. I got to work phones, and working phones was fun because I got to like talk to like all the departments in the hospital, get medications for nurses, and just kind of be aware of like what the administrative like processes are in a hospital. But yeah, another thing that I really suggest doing, and my uncle suggested it to me, is journaling. If you have any downtime, journal your experience in the hospital. It's very important for you to refer back to later when you're writing about these experiences in your medical school applications. You should be able to like draw to something that was impactful, that made you think, wow, I want to continue doing this, something that solidified that desire to apply to medical school. And I have to say I've had many of those, which I'm going to get into right now. Whether you're doing research or volunteering, it's important to have record of what you're doing so you can refer to it later. The emergency department is very fast. The emergency department requires like all hands on deck. At the hospital I was volunteering at, they didn't require CPR certification, but that is something that I think is very useful, especially like as a pre-med student. It's probably something you may already have. I unfortunately don't have it, and I'm going to get it soon because I'm realizing how important something like that is in a healthcare setting. In the emergency department, you can expect some intensity and some slow days, but I can't express the level of like shock that I got when I was like watching the emergency room nurses and emergency room doctors like do the work that they do, because it's difficult. They're so quick on their feet, and they just have to be prepared for like the constant influx. Like in an emergency room, you see like anything ranging from like heat stroke to drug overdose to cardiac arrest, pulmonary arrest. There was this one day when I was working in the ER and I witnessed 2 cardiac arrests, one which required like 20 minutes of CPR, and ultimately required like a Lucas machine, which is like this robot that like is placed over like the chest of the patient that does like automatic compressions, so that you don't have to rely on people constantly rotating out to do them. As I was saying, that day was insane. 2 codes, which is the cardiac arrest, and there were like so many heat stroke cases. You have to be very willing to help and be quick on your feet. I have to say, like, there was this one time I do remember where I was just like walking around answering call lights, and then they called like a trauma red, which is like when there's a severe case coming in an ambulance, and they allowed us to go see, and it was pretty intense. I have to admit I got a little nauseous, but it's something that I do want to do. I do want to pursue medicine, so I'm glad that I got to experience it. Just knowing that if you do think that you're sensitive to things like that, volunteering is a great way to get like exposure therapy, because from what I've heard, you can get over certain sensitivities to things like blood and trauma and things like that just by like little exposure, and I'm glad that that's something that I've gotten through the hospital. I didn't realize how long this video was getting. Just to close, volunteering at the hospital has been one of the like most enlightening experiences. as a pre-med student, I would say that proximity that I've gotten to patients, the ability to help people has been the greatest in the hospital setting. But it's also been the hardest. I unfortunately have witnessed people pass, and that is something that like weighs on me. And I know it weighs on like the nurses or the family members even more, but it's something that through working at the hospital, I was able to be exposed to, and it's something that I have to acknowledge that is going to be prevalent in this career if I continue down this path. So I guess if I had to sum up the video, really taking on hospital volunteering is something that I can't recommend enough, especially for those of you that are considering becoming something in the healthcare field. Do it. Building your empathy from an early stage is something that will always help you. Interacting with people, helping people, clinical setting it's one of the most invaluable experiences I've had. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, as I'm going to be publishing more videos on what my summer's been like. I'm packing because tomorrow I'm going to France, so maybe I'll post a little vlog. Look to that and see if you guys like that. Oh, also, I saw that I got 50 subscribers. Thanks for that. It's pretty cool. I like making like videos like this and just kind of like publishing my experience. Thanks for watching. I will see you guys in the next one.